Hi everyone. So let's start the next question. 1097 Gameplay Analysis 5. So this is the continuation of gameplay analysis. So we are given a table with player ID who used some device on a particular date to play some games, right? Like the player ID 2, he used device ID 3 on this date to play one game. And then the install date of a player is the first login day of that player. So this we know how to calculate. We just have to get the minimum date, and that will be the install date of that player or the first login. We define the day one retention of some date x to be the number of players whose install date is x and they logged back in on the day right after x, divided by the number of players whose install date is x. Okay, rounded to 2 decimal places. Write a solution to report for each install date the number of players that installed the game on that day and the day one retention. So if we understand the question correct, it will be like, so this player ID 1, the install date will be this one. So for this date, player ID 3 also installed. So for this date, we have to return how many players installed. So it will be 2, player ID 1 and player ID 3, and then we have to get the day one retention. So day one retention will be how many player whose install date was same, and then we have to get the people who again logged in just the day after they first installed the game. So after 0301 it will be 0302. So only player ID 1 logged in again. If you'll see player ID 3, he did not log in right again. So it will be 1 divided by 2, because 1 will be the player ID 1 count of players who logged in right after the first login, and 2 will be the number of people who installed the game or installed whatever this on the first day. Now let's look for this one. So 2017-06-20. So player ID 2 installed here. So for this date, how many people installed? 1. And what's the retention? So 2 did not logged in, so the retention will be 0 by 1. This will come as 0.50 and this will come as 0. So this we have to return. Let's see if our understanding is correct. Yes, so we have to return this. Now let's see how we can code this one. So to get the first thing, which is to get the minimum date or the first login date, we know how to do it. So we can use first value, or we can use minimum function and group by player ID, but in this one I'm using first value. So it will be partitioned by player ID. We are just creating a window and extracting the first one, and then order by it will be event date as install date. Let's give it a name, and the table name is activity. We have to get the distinct. Let's see if we are getting the first or the login date for every player whenever the player has first logged in. So that will be the install date. Yes, so for every player we are getting the install date. Now we have to get the players who returned after their first login. So how we can do it? We can put this in CTE. Let's give some descriptive name. Let's give it as player install table, and then what we have to do, we have to just join back to the original table. So select from activity A, and then we are going to join this player, and then we have to join on player ID. So it will be, let's give it alias p dot player ID equals to a dot player ID. So we are joining on the player ID so that we will be getting all the players, right? And then here we have to use a.playerID. Again copy a.playerID, and then you have to get its event date. And then we know that the customers or the players who have logged in again, their date difference will be 1. So we know that here date diff between where is that event date and p dot install date, that should be 1. Let's see if we are getting the expected result or not. So here I'm expecting from this table that I should get player ID 1. So I'm getting player ID 1, and then the event date is 2016-03-02 because he logged in after the first install. Now we just have to use these two table results, and we just have to divide to get the daily retention. So let's give it a name. First we give player install, let's give it player retention. And now we just have to divide this. So it will be select just have to use the aliases. I'll just put it here. So select from player install, give it a name pi, join player retention. Now we know that all our players are in the player install, so we have to use left join. If you just use normal join, then from these two tables only player ID 1 will be the matching record, but we want every player, right? So that will be left join on the player install, and then we can join on the player ID. So I'm just copying it from here, but I'll change the alias, so it will be pi, and here let's give it pr. So we just have to this, and then we know that what we have to do, we have to get the count. So it will be, we have to get the install date. So install date is coming from pi, so pi dot install date. The next thing is installs, how many player installed, so that will again be coming from the count of player ID, right? So it will be count of pi dot player ID, and then if you are using the count, we have to get the group by install date. Now we got this one, that we got the count of player ID. Next thing we have to get is count of these players who logged in again after their first login, so that those players will come from player retention. So it will be count of these players. Just for now I'm giving alias as installs, and this will be CNT just to check. Okay. I'm just checking the syntax. I'm getting the error that unknown column a dot player ID in field list. Oh, this will be PR, right? Now let's see. So we are getting the exit count, that on this one 2 people installed and only one of them is retained. For this one no one retained. So what we have to do, we just have to use this and divide, and we have to give alias as DayOneRetention, and then we also have to round, I think round it to the decimal places, so round, and then we can use 2 here. Let's see. Now let's see what's the okay. So now we are getting the expected result. It's just that we have to use the aliases correctly. Let's run this one. So it got accepted. Submitting. Thank you everyone.